So we'll start again with that type of a layout, with those two upper and lower lines, and then your lowercase line. You know, so actually I'll do a couple different versions here. So a lot of times when people try and draw things on a larger scale, they f it up. You know, because they're trying to draw it on that bigger scale and it's not comfortable for them, and they're not used to doing layouts on that size. You know, as tattooers, you know, the biggest that we do lettering possibly would be, you know, shoulder to shoulder or somebody's stomach, or things that aren't, you know, 4 feet by 2 feet. So no matter how big it's going to be, always start drawing with the size that you're comfortable with, right? That looks right to you. Now again, you can always go back in and change it, but even with having everything on the proper angle, you know, a lot of times people have a hard time with the angles of the lettering, you know. So one option to prevent that is make yourself some guidelines on this type of a plane. Then you know, no matter what, your letters are going to be on that type of a plane. So you know, you have your A, your B, your C, on and on and on, right? And everything is on the same angle, you know, so at least everything is cohesively similar, right? So, and you can just keep everything on this same type of plane, right? And everything is more attractive that way. And again, this is just your first initial rough sketch. You know, so you don't have to worry about your spacing and all that sort of thing in this instance. You can start with your rough sketch and then go from there. One of my biggest pet peeves when I'm talking about lettering or trying to show somebody at the shop, or anybody that asks for any kind of critique, which I gladly will do if you ever see me out anywhere, conventions or whatever. I'm not saying if I'm out having dinner somewhere with you know, my family or whatever, to come over and start talking about some sweet lettering, but you know, it does happen. Even if you do, I'll still help you out, I'm sure. However, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people don't connect the letters. You know, when essentially they go in and they'll pick, you know, I don't know, Helvetica 12 point. That's actually probably not a good analogy, but pick any kind of a script or handwriting type of a font that is readily available to you in a computer-based program, and they're going to, you know, it spits out all these letters when you type it in, and it spits out all these letters, and subsequently there's always this little bit of space between the letters, right? And just so you know, this is the technical term for the spacing between the letters is called kerning. Kerning, and you know, so that if I ever say that during this seminar or any future references to that kerning, that's what it is. Kerning is just the letterman's term and the calligraphers and layout term for the spacing. So with that being said, you know, I like to keep the spacing very, very similar and connect the letters. So how do you do that? Now, when you print it out online, so let's say you have this. Well, here's your answer. You bring in your old trusty tracing paper, right? And you make your 2 lines that you have. And then you adjust it. You say, oh, okay, well there's that. And then you go in with your with whatever you decide to use. And then you adjust it, you know? You make your A. Now clearly it doesn't match up to the spacing there. So you move it over, right? And then you make your B. And then you got plenty of space over here, and then you make that into your C. And then if you look underneath, you can see through there, right? You have all this extra space. So guess what? You move it over, right? And then you adjust it. And this doesn't even have to be your final version. This is just as if you were writing a word. And then you look again, and you got your E way over in right field over there. Okay, so you move that over. I know I'm blowing your mind, right? Just simple. Crazy. All right, so there's that. And you continue on and on and on and on. Now you can get to letters like you have this F. And you have all this space. I'll put that to the side for a second. And we'll go back to this. Now you have all this open space between this F and this G. So you have a couple different options, you know. So what you can do is, You know, you bring that E over to where it looks, you know, roughly similar. And now now is when you can start taking some liberties and moving some stuff around. So what I would do in this case, I'd probably make this F about like that, right? And then I'll do this. So now, again, now we're trying to work on this space right here. So I'd move that over, you know, I'd move it over to, I don't know, I'd say roughly about here. And so nothing I do here is going to make this far over, because you have this vertical stroke on this F. And now you have, no matter how far I bring this G over, as you can hopefully see through that tracing paper there, no matter how much I pull that over, actually I'll just go over it, you can see it a little easier. So there we go. So there, right? So no matter how far I pull this thing over, you know, if I'm trying to mimic the open space here and here and here with this, I'll have to move it all the way to F over here, and it's going to be way out of whack. So that's when you can use, you know, your own judgment, and the eye is going to put it together, right? Your eye is going to make it all work together. So it doesn't even have to be over there. So, you know, you can make this this big space, you know, which you only need this much. Now you can make it use this as your open spacing, right? And you can bring your G up like that. And now to combat some of that, you can bring your G over this way, and, you know, you can eventually tighten it up to kill some of that open extra space by, again, thickening up the vertical stroke, right? And start adding little extra bits here and there. And that's how you can kind of combat some of that. And then as your final one, you know, you can use this H, bring it over, and again, now you're back to this problem is fixed, this problem is fixed, and now you're back into the flow of whatever letter comes next, you know. And then a lot of times, if that is the end of the word, then I'll make that last letter a little fancier, you know. Maybe I'll make a little of this going on, and I'll look at the whole entire word, and I'll work on it. You know, there's that. So I was talking about having everything on this type of an angle, you know, and you can also do everything on more of an upright angle, and that's going to give you a completely different look for the word or name or whatever you're doing, right? So, you know, let's say we have to do a quick. I'll start with that again. So, you know, we have this type of a thing, this type of a situation here with everything on the angle, right? Again, all rough, but that's when you take your rough and you turn it into a little bit of a cleaner version, which we just went over. So now let's say we have this, right? And we're going to do, you know, I don't know, we're going to do mom. And we put everything on that same angle that we went over already. All right? So now, just for argument's sake of the different styles, so now we'll do it on a more of a vertical type of a situation. So now we have that. Two completely different looks, right? Same word, just changing the angle just slightly, it gives you that, you know, and there it is, two completely different styles. And with this, you know, I would, again, approach it like I did all the other ones, and I would do the same type of thing, you know. I'd thicken up the vertical strokes just slightly, you know, and then I'd start adding some extra embellishments and things there to give mom some love here, right? And again, noticing that, like, oh, there's a little bit more space than I'd like. Well, then you can make your adjustments. Just keeping that in mind, that when you go to make your second cleaner version, then you can do that. There's some letters that, you know, like I said previously, when you get to the end of the word, there's some letters that I don't like to over exaggerate. In this case, you know, the M I can see working. You know, the M I'm a fan of, so I could see taking that at the very end of the word, you know, and just exaggerating that a little bit and making it more of an old, you know, calligrapher's, sign painter's type of a feel. you know, and giving it a nice thing. And this can also lend itself right into maybe adding a flourish, you know, to mom, right? So there you go. With just a little bit of extra effort, you know, now you have that, right? And the flourishes, again, I'll cover that in a little bit here. But, you know, just adding that little bit of extra and then looking at this and I go, all right, you know, as this turns out, you know, obviously this is a sketch, but this is a little heavier and I like it. You know, this is a little weird. And again, making sure you stay consistent. So when you get to the end of a letter, you know, let's say if you want it to be like that on the end, well then make it like that on every one of them. And just make it consistent, you know? And then just everything looks nice and clean and uniform. And once again, keep in the back of your mind, when you're doing this, if you look at that thing and you think to yourself like, man, if I came into a tattoo shop or I asked somebody to do a job for me, you know, that required some kind of lettering and they showed you something that isn't this, that you're not happy with, well then they're probably not happy with it. And they're going to be a little nervous. You got to figure people are coming to the tattoo shop for possibly their first tattoo, you know, and people get lettering for various reasons, including but not limited to, you know, a death in the family, a child being born. Generally, it's a monumental thing, right? You know, various reasons, but they're trusting you to emblazon this thing on them, you know. And nowadays, everybody has something to say, whether it's some kind of biblical verse or something that they feel has to be said, and they come to you. And here we are, right? Now we're doing some lettering. Now we're doing a Bible verse. Now we're doing some scriptures. Now we're doing God knows what. Subsequently, we have this thing that we have to attack and approach it in a great way for a great result, and not just give them the standard, you know, cookie cutout letter. Again, which could be fine. However, it's not fine for me. So this is why we're here. All right.